What happens when Springfield's past refuses to stay buried? When an old radio is discovered under the floorboards of the new Simpsons house, Homer decides to bring it home. He thinks it'll be a cool vintage piece to put in his basement, but he doesn't realize what it really is until it's too late. It is a haunted radio that literally broadcasts all of the deaths that are going to happen in Springfield, and it's slowly driving the whole town insane. It's me. Welcome to my channel. This is The Simpsons Horror, the haunted radio that changed Springfield forever. This spooky story is one that takes place in our favorite fictional town of Springfield and is styled off of the classic Treehouse of Horror episodes with the couch gag and everything. However, this horror story is completely original and written in the style of those episodes. So, let's get right into it. We open up with the couch gag and then we're right into the story. It's Halloween night in Springfield and Bart is out trick-or-treating with some friends. As they go door to door, he notices a house that he's never noticed before. It looks creepy and abandoned, but as he gets closer, he sees that it's the new Simpsons house. They must have just moved in recently. Bart and his friends think it would be funny to run up to the porch and give the doorbell a big prank scare. But when no one answers, they run off down the street and decide to check out the next house. But then suddenly, Bart hears a familiar sound coming from inside the home. It's the sound of someone screaming. Then he hears his own voice saying, "Don't come any closer, I'm gonna kill you." Startled by what he heard, Bart runs away and tells his friends that the house was haunted. Of course, they don't believe him, but Bart decides not to tell them about the face in the window that looked exactly like Sideshow Bob. Meanwhile, at the Simpsons house, Homer is downstairs in the basement looking around. He finds some loose floorboards and decides to see what's underneath. And much to his surprise, he finds an old wooden box with a lock on it. Intrigued, he picks the lock and opens the box. Inside is an old radio that has a handwritten note on it that says, "Never turn this radio on." But of course, being Homer, he ignores the note and plugs the radio in. A static sound fills the room. At first, it sounds like there isn't anyone on the other line. But then a raspy voice comes over the radio. He starts talking about how great it is to finally be able to broadcast again and tells the people listening to the radio to turn their lights off and to get ready for the end of Springfield. Homer throws the radio down on the table, thinking that it's just some weird old radio with a crazy person on the other line. But as he stands up from the table to leave, the lights flicker above him and the radio turns on by itself. This time the voice talks about a power surge in the town and how the entire town will experience it tonight at precisely 9:23, and then the voice disappears. Curious and kind of scared, Homer goes upstairs to tell Marge what he found in the basement and the creepy message he got from the radio. Marge, being the cautious one, tells Homer that it's probably best if they just get rid of that radio and maybe don't go messing with any more loose floorboards down there. But Homer decides to ignore her advice and instead puts the radio in his closet to listen to it more later. As the night goes on, Bart continues to hear his own screams coming from inside the house. He goes to his parents for help, but they just brush it off as kids being kids. And then Bart's friend Milhouse tells him that he heard the same screams coming from inside Principal Skinner's house earlier that day. Soon after, the power in Springfield begins to flicker and the residents begin to freak out. At the Simpsons, Homer grabs the radio from his closet and tries to turn it off, but it won't turn off. Instead, the radio starts broadcasting more messages from the strange man who seems to know everything that's happening in Springfield. He warns people to run from their houses and to hide in the forest outside of town. And everyone in Springfield does so, leaving their homes empty. And that's when Lisa discovers a dusty old book about the history of Springfield in the attic. She reads about a tragic fire that happened many years ago that destroyed most of the town. The book also tells the story of Reverend Lovejoy's ancestor, Jedediah Lovejoy, who started the town of Springfield after discovering gold in the area. But greed quickly took over, and he began hoarding all of the gold for himself. The townspeople eventually found out and took all the gold from Jedediah, burned his house down and killed him. As Lisa reads the story, she realizes that it's the same story that was being told on the radio. It turns out that the radio belonged to Jedediah Lovejoy, and it somehow allows him to communicate with people in modern-day Springfield. She also learns that the fire that destroyed most of Springfield happened because of Jedediah accidentally setting his own house on fire while trying to burn the town. Lisa races downstairs to tell her family what she learned, but they aren't there. The radio is still playing the same message from Jedi, but now it is saying that he is going to make it snow in Springfield, even though it is the middle of summer, and then the radio goes silent. Outside, the sky darkens and giant hail begins to fall from the sky. Everyone huddling in the woods watching in fear as snow begins to blanket the ground. But soon the weather shifts and the snow turns to rain, which then turns to a thick fog. Bart gets separated from his friends and finds himself lost in the woods. That's when he sees the creepy abandoned house from earlier and runs towards it, believing that his friends are hiding there. But once he reaches the front porch, he realizes that it is the Simpsons house, and he remembers hearing his own screams coming from inside earlier. He hesitates for a moment, but then he climbs onto the porch and knocks on the door. He looks through the window and sees Homer standing in the living room holding the radio. The radio is now broadcasting a message from the future where the town of Springfield has been completely abandoned due to the damage from the fire and the snowstorm. And a news reporter is saying that scientists believe this may be the first ghost town in history that is caused by a time loop. Bart freaks out and runs away from the house. As he runs, he sees a familiar face in the distance. It's Principal Skinner, but something's different. His hair is long and unkempt, and he looks insane. Skinner chases after Bart, saying that he needs his help to stop Jedediah Lovejoy and save Springfield. They reach the old abandoned house, and Skinner says that he used to work at this house. Many years ago, it was a school for troubled kids, and Jedediah Lovejoy was one of the students. He became obsessed with the radio and used it to try and control the minds of the other students. But the plan failed. Skinner then locked Lovejoy in the basement, but when he went to check on him the next morning, Lovejoy had vanished, and the only thing left behind was the radio in the box. Skinner says that if they can get the radio back in the box, then it will break the time loop and fix everything. Just as Skinner is about to put the radio back in the box, Homer appears and tries to stop him, saying that he wants to use the radio to find his son, Bart. Homer believes that by playing the radio, he'll be able to lead Bart back to the house and end the nightmare. However, as soon as he does, the radio starts broadcasting another message from the future. This time it is Homer talking about how he used the radio to bring his son back to the house and end the time loop. But it didn't work, and Springfield is now completely destroyed. Everyone in Springfield wakes up from their homes and runs outside to see the damage done by the storm. They notice that all of their possessions are gone. Their cars are destroyed and the wind is howling through the trees. As they stand there in shock, they hear a voice coming from above them. It's Jedediah Lovejoy, and he's telling them that he's going to destroy Springfield again. The screen fades to black as everyone screams in terror, and then it cuts to the couch gag. We then cut back to the scene and the camera pans across the empty street. We can see that the Simpsons house is the only house left standing. And then we see a figure standing on the porch. It's Bart, and he's holding a gun. He turns around and we see that he's aiming the gun at Homer. "Why did you bring me back here?" he asks. "I didn't want to come back." This implies that the time loop will continue and that Bart will end up killing his father and destroying Springfield yet again. And that's the end of the first Treehouse of Horror parody. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. If you liked it, then be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you.